So today we're going to talk about dividing fractions and mixed numbers. We've already done adding, subtracting, multiplying, so it would make sense that now we're going into dividing. So what does it actually mean to divide? What we're used to thinking is I have $10, I'm going to split it between me and my friend. So we each get $5. So it's pretty much the same concept, but what you want to think about is you're going to well, you'll see this model. So I have two whole, what do we want to think of? Food. So I'm going to say candy bars because I like candy. All right, so we have two candy bars. And I want to divide them into quarters. So I'm going to take one candy bar, and here's my quarters. And then I have another candy bar because I have two, and I'm going to divide them into quarters, into fourths. So what I want to do is find out to divide it into quarters, how many quarters would I have? So we just count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so to divide it by 1/4 or a quarter is going to equal 8. So I have 8 quarters that I could now split between my friends.
Going back to money, if we're looking at $2 and quarters, that's like a quarter, right? 25 cents. How many 25 cents? How many quarters are in two?
Absolutely.
There's 8 of them.
Yep, food and money is going to help. Okay, so this next slide is going to have quite a bit on it. Don't panic, pause it, and then start us when you're ready. Oh, actually, it wasn't this slide, it's the one after that. So, reciprocals. Basically, it's when two non-zero numbers, non-zero, like 1, 2, whose product, remember when we multiply, is 1. So here are a couple of examples. 2/3 and 3/2 are reciprocals because if I was to multiply them, which we just learned about, 2 times 3 is, let's see, and I'll go ahead and just write that. So 2 times 3, or sorry, 2/3 times 3/2. 2 times 3 is 6. I'm running out of room. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1. So those are reciprocals. Here's another example. 5 and 1/5 are reciprocals because if I multiply them, so 5, and remember we want it to look like a fraction, so we just put it over 1, times 1/5. When you multiply fractions, you multiply straight across, so 5 times 1 is 5. 1 times 5 is 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. So again, those are reciprocals. So you're going to need to remember that for dividing. Okay, so here's the slide that's going to have a lot on there. Calm down, write down the steps slowly, and then we'll go over it. Pause it. So pretty much the same steps, not pretty much, it's similar steps, but a little bit different as multiplying. But remember, we're starting off changing any mixed number to an improper fraction. The second step, and we're kind of going through this fairly quickly. Chapter 2 is, again, kind of a review as fractions, and I know you learned how to divide in 6th grade, but what's throwing it as a 7th grade now is we're going to be adding in some negative numbers. So change the dividing sign to multiplication, change the second number to its reciprocal, follow the rules for multiplying fractions. So let's just go through this, and hopefully you would have paused it and not stressed about writing this down. Here we go. So there's no improper fractions. So I'm just going to rewrite. I'm going to change my division to multiplication, and then I'm going to change the second number to the reciprocal. So this one right here, some people like to say the reflipical because you're going to flip it. So 3/2. And remember, going back to our previous lesson with the multiplying fractions, I want to see if there's anything in common that I could simplify, but there isn't. So 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 2 is 8. And then remember, we want to change this into a mixed number. So 8 goes into 9 once. I have 1 left over 8. Okay? And then Here's Miss Peterson giving you some additional examples.
Dividing a fraction by a fraction. So again, we're doing the same thing. We're going to change it so that we have 5/6. And remember, I change this to multiply. And I flip this over. So it's 3/2. Now I get back to, I have a 3 here, and I know that 3 goes into 6. Okay, so I can divide out 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. And now it's 5 times 1 over 2 times 2. And that's going to give me 5/4. And again, we've got 1 whole, because 4 goes into 5 one time with 1 left over. It's 1 and 1/4. Okay, so next, dividing a fraction by a whole number. Now again, we just want to make it look like fraction. Well, all whole numbers can be fractions. So I'm going to come down and I'm going to flip it around. I got 4/5 divided by 2/1. Now something I do a lot is I actually write it below 4/5 and I show that I'm changing to multiply.
I like that.
And I'm flipping this over 1/2. So again, I multiply straight across. 4 times 1 over 5 times 2 equals 4/10. So it's not an improper fraction, but I do need to divide. Remember how we were talking about that whole copycat fraction? I have to do the same thing to the bottom that I do to the top. Okay, so I'm going to divide by 2/2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. And there's our answer.
Okay, and so just want to highlight, notice that we simplified at the end, or you could have simplified earlier if you would have noticed. Yeah, so it's really up to you. We like to try to do it earlier if we can, but if you want to just multiply straight across, then simplify at the end. That's totally fine too.
So many ways to do it. Okay, so looking at some more examples, we're just practicing here. We've got changing that to multiply, flipping this upside down. We just could keep that negative sign with it. 5/8 times, it deleted it. 10/7, sorry. Playing with the machine. So I've got 5, and I'm going to just keep that negative on the top, -10/8 times 7. So again, I can cancel out first. That negative, I don't want that to be confusing. So looking, I've got to keep that negative. If I divide by 2, because 2 goes into 10 and 2 goes into 8, I'm going to be left with -2 up here. If I divide by 2 down here, I get a 4. What?
It's -5.
Yeah, right. As she said, it's -5.
That's why we like to work together.
-5, we all saw that, we knew. Okay, so 5 times -5, 4 times 7, 5 times -5, 4 times 7. Let's not forget our integer man, so a positive times a negative is a negative. 5 times 5 is 25, 4 times 7 is 28. And though I can look at my bench, but these don't have anything in common. 5 doesn't go into 28 and nothing else goes into 25. Beautiful, we're done. And just one more, just getting practice, guys. We're practicing first. We multiply around and add. We need to make this into an improper fraction. 3 times 6 is 18 plus 1 is 19/3. Again, bring the negative down. Divided by, same thing. We have to do multiply and add. 6 times 2 is 12. 12 plus 5 is 17. 17/6. Now again, it's still division. I got to change it. -19/3. Flip it. Multiply that and flip this. So we've got multiply 6/17. Now again, we can cancel here because 3 goes into 6 2 times. 3 goes into itself once. So that's a 1. That's a 2. We get -19 times 2. 1 times 17. Okay, negative times a positive. Our answer is negative. 19 times 2 is 38. 1 times 17 is 17. All right, here we go. We've got to make this into a mixed number. 17 goes into 38. Now make sure you're careful. It goes in twice. 2 times 17 is 34. Subtract and you have 4 left over. So our answer, keeping the negative sign, is 2 wholes and 4 pieces with the same denominator, which is 17. Remember, sometimes it's a lot of work. Anyway, moving on. Things to remember when dividing. If there's a whole number in the problem, write it as a fraction. If there is a mixed number in the problem, write it as an improper fraction. And follow the dividing rules, multiply by its reciprocal. Show the X games?
No, we can show it in class.
Perfect. And we'll talk about the X games in class.